All right, Cece, in our last segment here, let's just take a step back and talk about this game in terms of what the Eagles would have to do to pull off the upsets.
I mean, I've talked all week how good I think the Eagles roster is. I think top to bottom, the 53-man roster, that the Eagles have a better roster. But we know, New England, they have Belichick, they have Brady, and they also have not the mystique, but they do have some experience. I believe experience plays a role in this, but not necessarily the way people think. I had to go back, and I had to take a deep dive to kind of figure out how am I going to be able to tell this story of how the Eagles are going to beat New England. And I went back to 2015, week number 13, where the Eagles went into Foxborough and scored an unprecedented 35 straight points. And why is this important 2015 to this Super Bowl in 2018? Because the Eagles' current roster, there's 17 players that were in Foxborough and had a piece of that victory, played a role in that victory. 9 of their starters in that victory. Let me give you some of these key players that were in that game. Zach Ertz, Fletcher Cox, Malcolm Jenkins, Lane Johnson, Kelsey, Brandon Graham, Vinnie Curry, Kendricks, the linebacker, Nelson Aguilar. So they're frontline players, key players. They've had success against New England, but I think the key to the game was they scored 3 non-offensive touchdowns in this game. You know, blocked a punt or field goal, run it in, interception, run back for a touchdown. So how do the Eagles get some of these uncharacteristic points in this game? I believe that's the only way they're going to be able to win. I think the Eagles are going to play a tremendous game. I believe this will be an iconic moment in Super Bowl history. The fans will look back on Super Bowl 52 and be like, wow, what a display of talent to end the 2017 football season. So I'm excited to see it played out. It's a great matchup. It's going to be a great chess match, Nick.
So how can the Eagles win? All right, we know they can't make mistakes, right? We know that if they lose the turnover battle in a Super Bowl against Tom Brady, they're going to lose the football game. So let's just take that as a given. Take as a given they're going to play a clean football game. So what are some other things they need to do? Well, the first thing they would need to do is the things they've done all year to get them to this place, you have to make sure you button those up, you keep doing those well. So the Eagles, the best team in the league at preventing the other team from scoring in the final 2 minutes of the half. The Patriots, of course, for basically 20 years or 17 years, have been the best in the league at that. The Eagles cannot allow the Patriots to do to them what the Patriots did to the Jags, which is steal a touchdown right before the half. There's point number 1. Point number 2, the Eagles have to run the football. You've mentioned it. I'm going to mention it again. Yeah. It's the key thing they need to do on offense. They're 12-1 when they run the football for at least 100 yards, and I think most importantly, that's a way they can keep time of possession. When this team looked amazing, when Carson Wentz was their quarterback, one of the reasons the defense looked so good was the defense was only on the field about 27 minutes a game. Once Carson Wentz got hurt, up until the NFC Championship game, it flipped to where the offense was only on the field about 27 minutes a game, and the defense had to play 33 minutes. We saw in last year's Super Bowl as big of a discrepancy as you'll ever see in time of possession, but we saw the Falcons' defense absolutely wearing down. And then, lastly, and maybe most importantly, for the Eagles to have a real shot, you got to get to Tom Brady. We know that everyone says, oh, you always have to get to Tom Brady. In the last 10 years, if you get 19 quarterback pressures in the playoffs, those teams, it's happened 12 times, they are 12-0. In the last 4 years, the Patriots have lost 1 playoff game. It was to the Denver Broncos when the Broncos got an insane 24 quarterback pressures. Fletcher Cox has to be great. Timmy Jernigan's got to be really good. Our pal Chris Long has to be really good. And then assuming they do all of those things, they still need a couple big plays from Nick Foles. Like they still, even if all those things happen, they still need their quarterback a couple times to make plays like he did against Minnesota, shedding the rush, stepping up in the pocket, finding a weak spot in the defense and throwing the ball downfield. All of those things, to me, would have to happen for Philadelphia to upset the New England Patriots. Go ahead.
Okay, so just if I understand this, the Philadelphia Eagles have to do 10 million things perfectly in order to upset. Okay, so I don't, even if you take all the football out of it, the one thing that I think they absolutely have to do that they cannot win if they don't do is manage their emotions. We talk about how 52 players going up, they're 52, you take the quarterbacks out of it, they are almost a better team than the Patriots. If they can manage their expectations and manage their emotions, go in with a couple scripted plays at the top of the first half and a couple in the second half, and play their game and try to button up the mistakes and just play the kind of football that got them to where they are, they have a shot at this. But the question I want to ask both of you, let's talk about Doug Peterson going up against Bill Belichick. That is a daunting task. Whether you think the Patriots are better or not, you have to just look across the field at this other guy you're coaching up against and say, you know, I have to keep that out of my line of vision. I have to just focus on this game. How hard is that for a guy like Doug Peterson, CC?
I don't think it's going to be that hard because what we talked about earlier, your good friend Andy Reid. Andy Reid has mentored him. When you're a head coach in the National Football League, you're a special kind of coach. You're a special kind of leader. So I believe that relationship with Andy Reid, he gains experience from that because you're not, as a head coach, you're not going against Bill Belichick. You're not going against the Patriots organization. You're going against the X's and O's, offensively, defensively, managing the game and the special teams. I believe Doug Peterson's done a great job as one of the young coaches in the league, and I believe he will do a good job with his football team. He's concentrated on his football team. He hadn't talked much about New England besides saying that they're a good team, and I believe that will lead to the team taking the field with a great deal of confidence. When you have a better squad than the other team, it's not about the coach. It's about getting my players to play at their absolute best. And I believe Doug has concentrated on that and has focused on that. Doug Peterson, he's calling on one of his existing relationships with Brett Favre when he was the backup in Green Bay. And he has Brett Favre flying into town, and Brett Favre will address the Philadelphia Eagles tomorrow morning. So I believe Doug Peterson, he's got a good handle on this, and I believe that his mentor and Andy Reid and his experience in games like this in big time spots, I believe that he's learned from that.
One other note for the Eagles. The one thing that's been underrated is Nick Foles, because Zach Ertz was having a great year all year long. He was, if you play fantasy football, was one of those productive players early in the year, midway through the year, didn't matter. But since Nick Foles took over, Zach Ertz has been targeted a wildly disproportionate number of times. To give you just some context, the league leader in target percentage this season, that wide receiver was targeted 20% of the routes he ran. Nick Foles has targeted Zach Ertz 24% of the routes he ran. So he would have been the league leader by a wide margin if that had been the case all year long. If I know that, Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots know that. So when we said the Patriots try to take away what you do best, if there isn't one thing you clearly do best, they will try to take away what you do most. That means they will focus on Zach Ertz. That's why Jay Ajayi, Nelson Aguilar, Alshon Jeffrey have to go out there and make big plays. And one other little note, those wide receivers are going to have to make big plays against physical coverage. In the last 13 years, there have only been 8 pass interference penalties called in the Super Bowl, and there have been 0 illegal contact penalties called in the Super Bowl. The referees let the guys play a little bit more in this game. The Patriots are used to that. They've played in those games. The Eagles have to be prepared for that.
All right, guys, it's time to make some picks. I'm going to start. I am going